Hey kids, I took some time to finish my degree program. It feels really good to be doing this again. I'm hoping to introduce some changes in Season 2, but one thing that won't change is my intention to be vulnerable. So let's start things off with the most recent bit of insight that I had to learn the hard way. To kick off Season 2, I want to share something personal that I hope will be meaningful to some of you. I used to serve a religious community. I did it for more than 10 years. And then a year ago I left. And then life kept happening, and now here I am a year later, still not part of a community. And you know what? I haven't missed it. Everything has been fine. Until suddenly things weren't okay with me. I was recently in a bad place. I had an illness for which I took some medication, which I had a bad reaction to, and it's been a long process to get back to normal. And in the midst of that struggle, I tried to lean on some practices that have sustained me in dark times in the past, and I couldn't find them in myself. I used to be good at these things. Certain songs of significance, certain prayers, certain behaviors and objects that have proven useful to me. I found, to my dismay, that I wasn't good at them anymore. I was out of practice with these things. They no longer came to me like second nature. It was a struggle to engage them at all, and so they weren't much help to me. And that was the moment my desire for community returned. I realized that this tremendous set of resources was kept alive in me by my constant participation in a community. The elements of worship and fellowship and service developed in me certain reflexes that had power to sustain me in difficult times. And because I hadn't been participating, when difficulty came, I had poor reflexes. Whatever the difficulty of participating in a religious community, it's become clear to me now that it's a matter of self-care. Being my best means participating in a community that partially constitutes who I am and sustains me when I'm not my best. So, that's what I need to do. I need to find a community where I can settle in. And that's full of difficulty that, to a degree, I've probably been avoiding. But I need to work through the difficulty. Because it's worth it. Because I'm worth it. That brings me to the whole point of this episode. This channel is called Skeptical Mystic. Mystic because I'm interested in pursuing direct encounter with the divine. Because I and so many of my friends struggle with institutional religion and all the baggage that comes with American Christianity. To so many of us, the possibility of keeping our faith alive while also getting some distance from the communities that have hurt or failed us, that's very appealing. But I don't think that's a viable option long term. In the short term, we may be fine without our communities. But for better or for worse, we are constructed in varying degrees by the communities we participate in. And especially belief as a living reality, as a shared experience, dwells in a community. And it's passed on through community. Abandoning community in the long term means eventually abandoning the beliefs and practices of that community. That's not my religious conviction talking, that's anthropology. Look at the great mystics throughout history, in Christian tradition and in other religions also. What becomes very clear is that mysticism thrives in communities that embody a living tradition. We might prefer to emphasize how they stand in contrast to the communities they were a part of, or how they spoke prophetically to those communities, or how they challenged the assumption of their communities, but they always remained a part of their communities. Because that generates the kind of tension where things can happen. It's almost like mystical experience and practices are the flowering or fruiting part of a plant that is ordinary religious community. Fruiting and flowering is the result of a healthy plant. The whole idea of being severed from the plant so that you can fruit and flower is kind of absurd. Now, I remember when I was a kid, my grandpa cut down a tree and let it lay there for a long time. And when spring came, sure enough, it actually bloomed. It produced seeds. It acted like it was a living tree. but the roots were severed. It was only a matter of time. So, many of us are attracted to mystical practices because in so many cases we don't even have good communities as options anymore, even if we want them. But I do think that mysticism, when it's being expressed as a part of an individualized and somewhat disconnected spirituality, is just a stopgap on the slow descent into disbelief. Unless we find a way to reconstitute community for ourselves. I'm not saying I know what that looks like. I'm just saying I'm done doing it on my own. So, where do we go from here?